Colleagues, good evening. The time is 6 o'clock. The agenda is as placed before us. We have two briefings, basically. It's a briefing by the Defense Force, DFSC, the defense and the update on the status of the development of future strategic direction. And then we do the minutes and we close the meeting. So it's not going to be a long meeting. It's a short meeting. It's dark where I am because of load shedding from 4 to 6. I hope I'll be out of load shedding in a minute or two. I would prefer that I keep my video off for now. Can you hear me, Nandipa?
Good evening, Chair. Yes, I can hear you, Chair.
I'm audible, yes. Yeah, it's load shedding 4 to 6. So hope I will be out of it in the next few minutes. Oh, there it is. There it is. Right, colleagues, this is me. Are there any apologies?
Evening, Chair, once again. Evening to members. I've got 4 apologies from Mr. Mafanya, Mr. Ryder, and Mr. Mare. And also from the content advisor who will join us later. He's busy with the ad hoc committee on intelligence.
All right. In view of the apologies, do you have the quorum?
Not yet, Chair. We have 4 members in the meeting currently.
You have 4 members in the meeting. All right. But
sorry, 5, Chair. 5.
No, we'll start nevertheless. And so that I'm sure 1 or 2 will join us as we proceed. We've dealt with item number 2, apologies. And let me just check who is on the platform. I see that the SecDef is on the platform. Sorry, the acting SecDef. Good evening, acting SecDef.
Good evening, Chair. I also have a power outage, so I'm working from the car in case I'm cut out.
Is yours is 6 to 8?
Yeah, no, it's a power outage just in the area, not a load shedding.
Oh, in the area. Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay, all right. No, that is noted, SecDef. Thank you very much that you have attended. I also see the acting CFO, Mr. Polsi. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Chair and members.
Thank you. All right. I'm not quite certain if we have people, the colleagues from the DFSC on the platform. I know that Mr. Police, come again, do you have
Yes, Chairperson, good afternoon. We are here. I am here with the rest of the commissioners on the platform. Thank you. And the Secretariat.
Okay, can you introduce them, Deputy Chair?
Thank you. I just had, if I may just briefly indulge you on this, I'm not sure I'm getting a mimecast, so I've had to attend using my cell phone, and I can't see them, but I'm going to start off by introducing myself and then request my fellow commissioners to just say who they are. My name is Sibina Sapulusa, and I serve on the Defence Force Service Commissioner as the Vice Chairperson. Thank you. I'm inviting my fellow commissioners to please introduce themselves. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can they please introduce themselves?
No, thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon to you and the members of the committee. My name is Pelele Zulu. I'm the part-time commissioner. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Pelele. Okay, so we have two, but yes.
Chairperson, thank you. It does look like I'm only joined by Commissioner Zulu. I do have the head of Secretariat who can also introduce himself if he may, Chair.
Okay, head of Secretariat. Please introduce yourself.
Chairperson, in the interest of time, may I go ahead and introduce him? His name is Mr. Mudikiwa Philemon Mutsepe, and he is joined by our researcher, Lerato Pologane. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Let me then request you to take us through the briefing on your midterm budget performance report. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The scope, I'm not sure if the presentation is flighted for everyone to see. May I request that it be flighted so that we all viewing from the same, unless there is a problem, I am willing to go through it because I do have it in front of me.
There it is on the screen, Deputy Chair, over to you.
Thank you very much. Can we kick off by taking you through the scope? Thank you so much. Just briefly and quickly, I'm going to talk to you about why we're here, the key activities since we last saw you, which was last year, August, and what we're planning to do going forward and more. The status of our contract as things stand right now, our engagement with our boss, the minister, and the impact of the MBC on our work, the key recommendations, our budget as per request, some of the challenges we are experiencing and how we work on it, and then we'll wrap up at that level, Chairperson, and deal with questions and comments. So we are basically here today to brief you on our media performance and expenditure. Our key activities since we last were here, you will recall that the last time when we were here or when we were invited to address you, we had a glossary of things, but what I'm going to focus on, it is those things that as a commission, we are lifting out of many, but also lifting out because they are things that we have done and somewhat achieved and have been able to get around to concluding them. We have in the past year been able to conduct the follow-up visits to about 7 military bases and units. For the sake of the committee, if I may just remind us, as a commission, you will recall that at the core of our work, it is to visit the units, and it is also to visit the bases anywhere where our soldiers are. And within that context, as a commission, we had never conducted follow-up visits, but we decided that it was time for us to consider that aspect, to follow up and see how far had been done in the different units that we had visited, and also given the recommendations that we had given to those different units. At this point, Chairperson, allow me to also say that we did this mindful of the fact that not all recommendations that we have made are cost-driven. Some of the recommendations that we make are not necessarily cost-driven. But when we set out to do the follow-up visits, we were looking to follow up to see if, even though there are cost challenges, we also wanted to see what is the extent to which some of the allocations and reallocations had addressed even some of the key issues that were imperative in the improvement of the lives of the soldiers that had been undertaken. And I must say, the Commission was very pleased to find out that just about in every one of the follow-up visits that we conducted, there was nowhere where the Commission went where there were not improvements, or where the feedback or the recommendations that were done were holistically ignored or not done. In certain areas, there were creative engagements that were undertaken to deal with some of the issues. But more importantly, in other areas, there were reallocations of funds to deal with some of the big issues that we had identified that were requiring costs to be conducted. So we feel that even though some of the changes that were made were not necessarily reported, for us, it was an important realization and acknowledgement that the work that the Commission does to some extent make a difference, and that even on times where we have felt that some of the recommendations or the recommendations made were not necessarily heeded to because of the funds, on the ground, the changes and the reception has showed us that the work that we do does make a difference, and that the leadership does look at different ways to address some of those issues, especially because in some of the instances, the morale was low. But as soon as those minor changes were made, it did turn out to improve some of the morale, to improve somewhat the morale of the soldiers. On number 2, Chairperson, as a commission, amongst other things, we do work with different stakeholders. Here, the issue of transport has always, since inception of the commission, been an issue. And it has been an issue, different issues have been cited on it, and even at this committee, the commission is on record as having reported that amongst the high-level things or the top issues that have come out consistently was the issue of transport. So against the backdrop of knowing that the issue of money is one of the things that has an impact on the non-implementation of the recommendations, we set out as a commission to look at how could we still pursue some of the things that are issues without necessarily using or incurring or making the DOD incur costs. So to that effect, we set out talking to the Department of Transport to explain some of the issues and to look at how they could come on board. Also, our international studies and some of the comparative international visits we have undertaken, they have taught us that in other countries, for instance, members in uniform do not pay for transport anywhere. So the subject was broached with the Department of Transport, meetings were held, several meetings to that effect, and senior members of the Department of Transport were part of the project where we met, and at the level of agreeing to work together after we had taken them through the challenges, they went away and looked at what could be done and came back to us and said, it is a possibility. This is indeed something that can be looked at. And in that regard, we are pleased to inform you that we have since signed the MOU, and we are going to have an occasion where the principals would get together to sign this MOU. In the background, the technocrats, together with ourselves within the commission, we are working on the nitty-gritties of how this can be funded. But the end result is that a customization of a process of sorts will be presented for consideration, working with the internal DOD together with the Department of Transport towards alleviating the issue of transport for the soldiers countrywide within the DOD chairperson. The third issue, Chair, is the number of submissions of reports. The honorable members, Chairperson, will recall that at the heart of our role, it is to provide the minister, conduct research, get issues, conduct research on those issues, prioritize and present our findings and recommendations to the minister. So in the past, in the period that is in question, the commission has been able to present the following reports to the minister. We have made recommendations on the group life insurance scheme for the SANDF members. I must say there is still finality for them to accrue the benefits. There are a number of things we were not able to do. In fact, not a number, a couple of things which, when done, we would be able to deliver this opportunity for the members' benefits. So going forward, there's still more work to be done, but yes, as at end of last year, we presented to the minister and requested her intervention on some of the things we were not able to reach ourselves. But the work has been done. We just need to get to the level of getting the necessary information to be able to get the necessary and relevant experts to crunch the numbers to the level where they are able to give us information that can then make it a tangible recommendation for the minister and the DOD to consider. The second one was on the recommendation on cost of living adjustment. Chair, you will recall that our work, as per the Act, demands that, amongst other things, we present to the minister the cost of living adjustment annually. After we would have done the necessary research, we would make the recommendations. We did do this, Chairperson, last year, and it was a multi-year recommendation against the multi-year agreement that has been conducted and agreed upon. But what we did do this year, in compliance with the prescripts, we did present a reminder to the minister that in line with the multi-year agreement, we are now reminding you that this year we are not going to present, but we would refer you to what we presented last year. The third one was a recommendation on the remuneration philosophy. This one, Chairperson, once again, is one of those that, for it to be implementable, that the work that we do as a commission, we have no doubt in our minds that a remuneration philosophy is one of those things that are imperative to have in existence and aligned in particular to the HR strategy and renewed as the HR strategy gets renewed annually. And in the absence of one, we made a recommendation that one could be considered, and it is with those that have been tabled to the minister. The fourth thing that we recommended was a consolidated report on follow-up visits. We produced a report on the 7 visits that I referred to earlier and submitted it to the minister. We also submitted our end-of-term report. When I say end-of-term report, it was a report that we decided to submit to the minister at the end of last year, but there is still work in progress since at the end of the financial year, we are due to present our 5-year term report to the minister once again. Lastly, the submission that we made was to request an intervention to ensure the financial sustainability and governance of the regular force medical continuation function. I must say, Chairperson, one of the things that came out very strongly on all the visits, the follow-up visits that we did, was a huge concern, especially from the members that were due for retirement. So it was very important for us to ensure that we table it and create awareness for the minister to kind of bring it to her attention that, Minister, this is one of those things that needs attention. So as a commission chairperson, when I get to the planned activities, I need to actually start the planned activities with a bit of a disclaimer. May I request that we move on to the next slide, please. And as we do that, I need to start the planned activities, Chairperson, with a little disclaimer that says we are still in the process of informing our planned activities. Chair, you will acknowledge that for the planned activities to be cast and concrete, our alignment is to be informed by everything else that is a reality around and within the environment within which we do business. So what we have here is but some of the things, but the list is not about to be conclusive, Chair, until we finalize our process of the strategic plan. So we will be in the new financial year, be ready to present the planned activities that would be best informed more than what you are seeing at the moment. Thank you. We can move on to the next slide. In terms of our status of what we have and who we have, Chairperson, currently our strength stands at 6 commissioners. It is myself as the acting chairperson, and perhaps at this point, Chairperson, I may just inform the committee that our chairperson has since left because her term of office ended at the end of December last year. So we currently have 5 commissioners. All of us are on part-time basis. And as you will recall, the commission or the act that governs us requires that there be at least 8 to 10 commissioners. We have presented to the minister where we stand, the current status, the skills that are there, and perhaps possibilities that the minister may want to look at in terms of strengthening what exists. and the process is in the minister's hand, Chairperson, as we speak. And in terms of our engagements, in the past month, we have not had a formal engagement with the minister, but we have had our leadership, I may say, has had informal engagements with the minister, and we are looking forward to having a formal engagement with the minister soon. But not, I must say that outside of engagements with the minister, relations between our office and the minister's office and collaboration on the ongoing of things within the commission, challenges, achievements, those continue, Chairperson. It is our view, as it has always been, that the Military Bargaining Council has not and does not impact the work of the commission, because what governs the commission and what governs the MBC has always been different, and the rationale for the existence of both is also different. However, as a commission, we believe that though all the entities that exist within the DoD space, their role and purpose is always and should always be one thing. They should always be towards ensuring that the mandate of the DoD is achieved, and that the work for which they are established continues to be pursued and achieved. Some of the key, I'm now on the next slide, thank you, Chair. These are some of the key recommendations that we particularly chose to lift out because we believe that they need to be focused on. They also are amongst the ones that are going to make their way without predetermining the outcome of our strategic plan. These are among the ones that we believe are using the 80-20 principle. They are amongst the 20% which, and should they be done, they will have the potential is there, Chairperson, for them to have an 80% impact. I will just list them and maybe read the summary of what we are recommending. On number one, it is the recommendation on the unemployment insurance funds of the reserve force members. The reserve force members are not covered, and this thing became very sharp at the time of COVID, when some of them applied for the 350 social relief fund of distress and were later identified under the employees of government that had double dipped. It is our view that those that were not deployed at that time were rightly, and it was suitable and correct for them to have applied, and that it was not a fair stance for them to have been identified as employed, because at that time, those that were not in full deployment at that time had the right to apply. So this made us initiate meetings with the Department of Labor, and in particular, the officials in the Unemployment Insurance Fund. Our initial discussions were such that it is something that can be explored further. So it is something we're looking to continue to work on, Chairperson, because we believe that if and should this be allowed and be possible, it will bring a lot of relief to the reserve force members, because the reserve force members, as well as the uniform members, are the two key, shall I say, members that we focus on as the Defence Force Service Commission. The second one speaks to the recommendations on the uniforms of the SANDF. What is key there, Chairperson? It is for us to finalize, because we had started work with different institutions, research institutions that are best placed to advise on the not just to advise and perhaps even partner potentially in the development of the relevant, the development of the relevant and appropriate clothing materials that should be utilized for both whether the members are deployed or they are not deployed. So this is work we would like to pursue, and it is also work that we believe is one of those that can be done to a very large extent with minimal dipping into the budget, and yet the benefits have far-reaching implications in creating comfort in our members wherever they are and increasing their sense of pride as they wear their uniforms with pride. The third one, Chair, speaks to the group life insurance scheme. Once again, this one, Chairperson, is once again one of those that we believe has and can deliver a lot of benefits, both at the level of the compulsory and at the level of the voluntary participation or voluntary choices, to an extent where using the numbers that exist by virtue of the strength, the human resources strength that exists, we believe potentially, and given the research that we have done, if and when the different challenges are identified and worked on and doors opened up, it can have a huge impact. And once again, not just a benefit that stands to benefit the members while at work, but it would also go beyond into benefiting their families and their other external and extended benefits beyond which the current one goes. The fourth one, Chair, speaks to, once again, our request of putting heads together, everyone that is involved in making sure that the financial sustainability and governance of the Regular Force Medical Continuation Fund is explored and a solution is looked into. So as a commission, we will also be looking into it and working with the different stakeholders to see what is it that can be done and should be done, because we believe it is affecting our members at a time when they are moving towards being vulnerable. Lastly, Chairperson, it is the recommendations that we have submitted on the military hospitals. And without citing all of them, all four of them are in the presentation, but if I can pick up one of them, it is just, the staffing of vacant medical posts in the hospitals and looking at the possibility of aligning, reviewing and aligning, and looking at how best could we decrease or stop the bleeding of the skills, given that certain benefits that accrue to the health practitioners within government are attracting our own to leave and go get better, where within government they can get better. So, Chairperson, these are some of the things that we have submitted to the minister and requiring her intervention on some, and continuing to also require and request that all the key stakeholders need to bring all hands on deck and pursue these that we have identified and highlighted. The next slide, Chairperson, speaks to the budget. Insofar as this goes, Chairperson, you will observe that our budget reflects a lot of less activity, in that we have had to surrender a lot of the funds that we had initially intended to use. I'm drawing your attention to the fact that COVID was also part of some of the things that affected us, but our inactivity was largely to some of the internal things that we were working with amongst our internal stakeholders and ourselves within the DOD. And you will see that the graph does show you that after a lot of what had been like challenges have been resolved, our work and activity and the trajectory of the budget and what is going back is beginning to decline. So the next slide, Chairperson, which talks to columns, is just a further elaboration of what was in the graph, just reflecting in terms of percentages what it is that we had surrendered over the years and where we are as things stand in the current financial year. So I'm not going to read it out, if I may, because it is very clear for all of us, but if I need to, I will, Chairperson. The next slide speaks to our structural challenges. We are citing this because we want to keep it alive, Chairperson, citing it, but we do understand the challenges that are taking place, but what we're putting forth is the fact that we continue to work with the DOD and the relevant departments to ensure that the challenges are worked on and all the internal work that needs to be done is in the process of getting done, such that when the time arrives and all is well and corrected, all is corrected at the time when the finances allow, the structure should be ready. In conclusion, which is our last slide, we would like to express that we do believe that the role that the Commission plays in achieving the mandate and the rationale for its existence continues to be important. A lot of what the Commission has recommended are not recommendations that necessarily date. So as we make our contribution towards a vibrant DOD, a vibrant Department of Defense, we would like to believe that whether it be today or in the future, hopefully the recommendations would, in good time, be taken on board. But we want to say we are very encouraged with what gets done during the time where the challenges are there. No, it's not like people are sitting and saying we're waiting for the funds and the issue of finance to be corrected. There is work that continues to be done, and that keeps us encouraged, Chairperson. And I think as we continue to support and ensure that our members in uniform have and enjoy satisfactory conditions of employment, the Commission stands ready to play the role and continue to play that role going forward. I thank you, Chairperson. May I, at this point, hand the process back to yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. The presentation was clear. And there are 3 items that you bring to our attention that require the minister to pay particular attention to. One is that you are not operating on your full strength. The commission is 6. In fact, we are now 5, down to 5. And when you ought to be between 8 and 10 commissioners. If the minister could urgently attend to that, would appreciate it. And then the second one is when you say in this financial year, in other words, in this first 6 months, you have not had the privilege of meeting with the minister. We bring that to her attention to look at that. I understand why you
Recording in progress.
You treat the meeting with the minister as very as important and critical in your business. So that is for her to look at. And then the third point is the recommendations that you are putting forward. They are obviously not for our consumption at the moment. You are just giving us a preview of what is contained therein. They are basically for the minister's attention, and we leave that to her as well, because they're basically intended for her attention. We will look at that when you come and present on their implementation, depending on what the minister's decision is in respect of each one of them. So I thought I should just look at it, just lift those up as matters that I would plead that they be brought to the attention of the minister. I'm happy that the minister is in the meeting. And Minister, good evening.
Chair, good evening. May I keep my camera down?
Yes, you are welcome. How are you, madam?
I'm okay. Very happy to join in, and unfortunately, I joined in after the presentation had been started. But I will agree with everything that the presenter has made. As a matter of fact, she did say that what we had was on the informal side. It was very instructive, because sometimes informal meetings are less, you are free to really jump in and ask questions and whatever. And I must tell you that of the recommendations that are made, at least 2 of them are on the table being discussed. This is on the table. I'm waiting for Defence to come back and give us a full report. On the medical fund, the SAMS is dealing with it. They are at the point where they should be having a breakthrough with the union. On the uniform, they are singing my story, because I am very clear that we must do something about it. The important and the strategic continuation for me of the Service Commission is that they deal with more or less the issues that the Joint Standing Committee deals with. Morale. Those little things that will make your force be able to perform and to feel that they are valued, they can get in. If you talk on with the union, if the union were to present the issues on the quality of accommodation, the commander would use their position to shoot that down. But if it is the service commission, there is no order and you take the order and jump out. It is about us really sitting down and looking at it and saying, yes, we acknowledge that this place is substandard, this needs to be done. So for me, the importance of continuing with the service commission is just that it does that little thing that must keep those important forces happy. So yes, I respect what they're doing, Chair, and we hopefully will meet soon. I have taken note that they did raise with me that we need to replenish. We appreciate their work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think, Minister, they're doing well. They're reporting that your department has somewhat responded to most of the recommendations, especially those that did not require that will not require a serious financial injection. So they went back and they found that they have, in fact, there's been, in fact, improvement. I think there is good working relationship between them and the leadership in the department. Thank you very much for your leadership, Minister. All right, let me now recognize Mr. Moran.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I want to start off by, the activities that you have mentioned, those, and specifically 3 submissions of reports. The one report I would very much like to have more insight or information on, and that is the submission on the RFMCF. Now, we know that we get inundated on a daily basis by not only current members, but especially retirees and members of that medical fund, where they've got major problems and concerns. The biggest problem, or the source of the problem, is probably that the fund was structured many years ago on the basis that probably 30% will be outsourced in terms of the services, and the rest will be provided by SAMS at the military hospitals and clinics. I think currently, if my information is correctly, there's about 20% or just over 20% that is provided in-house in terms of medical services and support, and about 70-75% is actually outsourced. Now, that has obviously placed such a strain on the medical fund that I believe that their reserves has gone down at such a rate that if something is not being done soon, you might find that they become, insolvent or unsustainable going forward. And one must remember that these members, uniform members, either current members and retirees, but obviously these will become retirees, so they will need the fund for long, that they might not have the benefits that other people had or that outside medical funds can provide. So I do not see much information in that regard, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges and concerns, and you have not touched on much of that. So I wonder whether that report can be made available to us so that we can just acquaint ourselves of the content and what you have done in that regard. Obviously, we are there to support you, the Joint Standing Committee on Defence and the Portfolio Committee on Defence, in any of those regards. So there should be interaction from your side to us, also not in terms of just what the minister must do, but also how we can contribute and play a role. The other report that I have not seen, and you haven't touched on that I do believe is, it's probably your responsibility as well. We know that the defence budget is in a very poor state, and we know that in nominal terms, the current budget is lower than the adjustment budget of end of last year. And that means that the percentage of cost of employees becomes in excess of 70% of the total defense budget. Now, surely that will impact on your members, current members specifically. So it should be your responsibility, and it should you should feel the need to also address that on how that can be resolved, how that can, what mitigating factors can you suggest from a proactive way, because we don't want to see a situation where we cannot support our members and we cannot give them the resources that they require. So I missed that, and I would have very much liked to get some feedback on that. If I just move on to your key recommendations. Now, again, none of those recommendations are to us, so it seems like you don't require any intervention or support from our side, which I think we can play a role. The one on the uniforms, I mean, that has now come on for quite some time. So now to make a recommendation to develop a standardized uniform. If I'm correct, some of the current soldiers are already wearing the new uniform. So what is the impact of develop new standardizations if there's already a new uniform? What will be important to us, I think, is in terms of our experience and exposure to soldiers are the quality of those uniforms. They must be in hostile situations, in adverse situations, in the bush, in Mozambique, in DRC, on the land borders, that they are exposed to the worst of weather conditions. And those uniforms, but also other stuff like very important shoes, is not up to standard, even tents. We know that our soldiers in Cabo Delgado often has got poorer quality support equipment than the other SADC members who also procure the same products from South Africa. So it seems like we are taking the poorer quality, maybe the cheaper one, compared to the other SADC soldiers, and that's not good for the morale of soldiers. And then shoes specifically, we have touched on that many, many times. And when we visited Arms Corps during our term, we went to the research center and that was specifically addressed. Now, I haven't seen or I haven't heard of that top quality coming through. So I would have loved to see more on that. And then the last one that I would just want to touch on is again on the RFMCF. Part of something that I would want to see is the functionality of SAMS. Because remember, in terms of those percentages that I've mentioned, SAMS is supposed to provide the services. And in the case where SAMS cannot provide, they must then outsource that. Now, to what extent is SAMS functional in providing that services? And to what extent must your members are forced to go on their own to private hospitals or private doctors for services that they're supposed to get from SAMS? Then also the funding model. The funding model, we know that for the last number of years, there's not been increases in premiums to members, but also the role of the department in that, whether there are any need for the department to play in that. And then lastly, Chairperson, just on the hospitals, it's not only about the decentralization, but we need to talk about, and I'd hope to see from you, the state of the hospitals. Are you happy with the state of the hospitals? We know the challenges that specifically one military hospital has got, and how under-resourced the other two brilliant hospitals, fantastic facilities, but totally under-resourced, and their clients are your members. And it seems like there's no reflection on that, and I would have loved to see some reflection that we can take forward, maybe not now, but at least in our legacy reports to the next parliament, to say that this is something that we have identified during and this is something that we have to look at and in the finance, because I don't know, but I assume that in terms of the funding model, that is totally different
But-
from
but do you
what it
really
was
want
when it
to-
was established.
Do you really want us to get to the details? These are recommendations, not to us.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that we haven't got the details, but also the summaries and the recommendations don't touch on those points. So if we can get the information, not tonight, but if we can get it in a report or somewhere, that we know that those things are being dealt with, because some of them have not even been mentioned as part of recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know how how the team generates the recommendation. I thought it's out of their interaction with the soldiers, and that they then make these suggestions. I know that you members may also have issues that they would wish that they be taken into account by the Defence Force Service Commission. And I'm not too sure if we are a stakeholder that can be consulted in so far as that is concerned.
Well, then they must say they don't need us as a stakeholder, but it's up for them to respond to that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm not quite certain. Let's look at what the law provides. So please, Deputy Chair, as you respond, be careful not to move away from what is your mandate and how you process you act on your mandate. I'm worried so that we don't get taken away from what is being put on the table, which is not, in fact, for our attention at this point. It's for the minister. We've just been given a preview. Thabo, I would request that you chair the meeting from 7 o'clock. I will have to step out and join another meeting. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, is that for the meeting?
Is the co-chair not in the meeting?
Let's.
No, he's not. He's not in the meeting as yet. Thabo is not. I actually requested him,
Fine.
but he still has not joined. They are busy dealing with the Bella bill. I think they are. Yeah. All right, Mr. Mara, thank you very much. I think the team will look at the issues you have raised, and also be mindful of time as well. All right. Any other hand?
Chair
Right.
Motapo.
Motapo.
Okay, thank you.
Motapo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I've got load shedding, Chairperson. Thank you so much, Chair, and Honorable Minister, colleagues, and the DFSC. Chairperson, I would like to align myself with what you said earlier on, and I'm happy the Honorable Minister responded to some of the issues, and so I don't further except to say we thank DFSC for the report and the Minister for giving these matters attention, but we'll appreciate if this can be taken very seriously. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Motapo. And Deputy Chair, over to you. Please be mindful of time as well.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think from where we're sitting, I'd like to remind you all and everyone that is on the platform that what we are here for was to report on what we are busy with. These are not recommendations that we were necessarily presenting to yourselves, but these are topics of the things that are still work in progress. At the right time, in due course, I think when the work has been done, concluded, and processed accordingly. This is just for you to know note and know what we are seized with and have been seized with in the time that this report was required of us to cover. So I will end there, Chairperson, because that's really the gist of what this is about.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, no, thanks, colleagues. Thank you very much. And your budget, we are still within your budget. So we're happy to see that. In other words, funding is not an issue at the moment, and so we'll leave it at that. And let's thank you for your presentation. You still have another 6 months, and to report on. That is, but at the end of the financial year, we'll look at the report now when it gets presented in Parliament. I'm sure the issues Mr. Murray touched on would, some of them, come up as you interact with your customers, as it were, for a lack of a better word. Thank you very much, Deputy Chair and the team. And we'll just leave it at that for now. All right, and we can then quickly move to the next item. And so we are free to exit the platform at any time you wish to do so. The next item is
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you so much, Deputy Chair. Thank you so much, colleagues. Is on the future strategic direction of the Defence Force, taking into account that the much promised review, 2015 review, is quite ambitious in the context of the funding, the available funding, and we now need to be trying to be modest and look at what is affordable, and then tailor our expectations accordingly. So it's in a sense that's what the minister was having in her mind when she proposed this. It's work in progress. The way I look at it, we don't expect them to go through every single slide, and because it's just work in progress, matters have not crystallized as yet. They are just thinking aloud, and but at least pointing to a direction that they want to take. Minister may want to say one or two things in introducing this, and then leaving it to the team to do the presentation. Thanks, Minister.
Chair, you're right. It is work in progress. It is a necessary work in progress because we can't just drift along. It is also supposed to wake up the executive to the real needs of the defense. We were very happy when we took a very, very raw version to the head of state and said, this is what we are, but this is what we really need to be. And he came back with an answer that said, but you have not done what you should have done. You have not looked at your strengths. You have not given me how much you think this wish list that makes you just affordable for the country will cost. So that is what we are bringing to you today. It's not complete. We are hoping that as soon as we complete, whenever we complete, that the committee will be the first. As in fact, the last two steps, we think you will be with us. When we meet with the experts, we hope that the Joint Standing Committee will be represented there. When we take it out into the public, that you will be part of it, and that will help us. So I think I should just leave it to hand over to the Department of Defense, SecDef, to do just that, brief the committee on how far we have come thus far. Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you, Minister. Thank you so much. Acting Secretary, the platform is yours.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, members of the Joint Standing Committee of Defence. Good evening to the Minister. I'm not sure whether the DN is on the platform, but if he is, I greet him as well. Yes, the Minister has just summarized what we have done. I must just say that we are giving the committee and taking the committee confidence and giving a high level stages of what we've done. We have gone through the stages. We have a rough draft, if I may call it, on the table, and but we would have been more comfortable if it has already gone through the cluster system, but it has not. But still, we thought that it's important that we take the Joint Standing Committee with us, just for them to see the work that we have done so far. There are two deadlines or timelines. One is that we should have a draft by the end of March. And the other one is that we should have a document with a plan by October 2024. So we, as a department, are ready to take you through, just to indicate that it's work in progress that still has to go through the cluster system as well. Thank you. I'll allow Mr. Nick Sandal, Chief Director, Defence Policy, to take the committee through.
Thank you. Colleagues, just before he takes the platform, the Minister had indicated that she would also, she has another engagement at, or a meeting at 7. And she would ask that she be given leave to exit the platform. I've also requested same, that be granted permission to exit the platform, and that Thabo Motle will take over from now. Thabo, I hand it over to you, and please allow the gentleman to do the presentation as I exit.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The presenter may proceed with the presentation.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and honourable members. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Acting Secretary, and the generals and senior officers and senior officials on the platform this evening. As Dr. Gamedi had said, my name is Nick Sandal, and I'm responsible for developing defence policy and strategy and related matters. So, Chairperson, what we realized progressively since the approval of the 2015 Defence Review was that it was increasingly less likely that that would be funded. And we know that that is the case. We haven't been able to fund the Defence Review as we had hoped. And that brought the Minister in a budget speech to ask of the House, then what kind of defence force do we need? One, and what defence force we can afford. And so the work we are working on at the moment is to answer that question. What kind of defence force does South Africa need, and what can we actually afford? And that obviously is a very difficult thing to answer. I wish to stress as well that this is work in progress. We are working very hard and progressing, and we hope to be in the consultation and engagement phase very quickly. Could the person who's got the screen just advance the slide, please? Thank you. So I'm going to provide 3 brief points to look at the important deliverables set for financial year 23-24, and some ministerial directives that were given to the department to guide the work at hand. I'll also provide you with an overview of where we are in this work and what are the deliverables and the tasks that we're busy with. And I'll also look and provide you in the third point what we're looking to do at the end of this by the end of this financial year, and what we'll be tackling at the start of the 24-25 financial year. And I do stress it's work in progress, but it's certainly exciting work. Thank you very much. Can you advance the slide, please? So let's look at what strategic direction deliverables we as a department are expected to put on the table. Advance, please. Okay, so in the Minister's Performance Agreement with the President for 23-24, as signed in July of last year, there are 3 deliverables, priorities for the Department of Defence. And we're just focusing on the top line, which is the priority to review the Defence Review and to go through an evaluation of the Defence Review and look at some priorities for further implementation and further action. And we need to have this done. In doing this, obviously the Defence Review in large parts remains valid and it's an important document, etc. But what we saw in our analysis is that Chapter 9, which is about the Defence Strategic Trajectory, Chapter 10, which is about the force generation and force guidelines, and Chapter 15, the Defence Industry Policy and Strategy, were the items that really needed adjustment according to the financial strictures that were placed on us. So if you just advance the slide, please. There should be 2 red rings come up. Thank you. So the target is in this performance agreement is that by end of October 24, we must have produced a review or an evaluation of the Defence Review. Together with that, an action plan by the 31st of October of 24. Our target date for April 24, or the end of March, is to have completed our analysis and revision and be able to report back to the National Executive by the 31st of March 24, so we can start developing the action plan. And so those are the 2 target dates that Dr. Gumede alluded to. Advance the slide, please. So what happened is, in accordance with this, our minister provided a very comprehensive directive to the department, which had many directives in it. And this looks at giving defense direction over multiple medium-term strategic frameworks. In other words, multiple 5-year periods of time. And the first directive, and the one we're going to look at, which we're focused on tonight, is to look at a future defense concept. And by doing that, we must posit a long-term growth trajectory for the Department of Defense that meets the national security requirements of the Republic and is tempered against the national security risk appetite or risk tolerance of government. This long-term trajectory must be fundable from the national fiscus, and it must stretch over multiple MTSF periods and can be implemented programmatically in the department. Now, Chairperson, we have all worked together a long time, and we know that defense is slightly different to other departments in that defense planning is not a multiple year affair. It's actually a multiple decade affair. Because the equipment you invest in, the platforms you invest in, the people you invest in have to be maintained and etc. over many, many years. So it's important that we answer the question, the long-term growth trajectory, the defense we need and we can afford, and we're able to express that in a financial plan or a fiscal strategy that goes over multiple MTSF periods. An MTSF period is an electoral period of 5 years. Advance, please. So the Minister's directive is very clearly linked to that of the Minister's Performance Agreement. And it's this work that we're doing right now. If advance, please. So, okay, I'd like to give you a bit of a progress report. Advance, please. So if you go to, Chairperson, if you go to the DoD APP for 23-24, you will see that the Minister's performance priorities to the department include a revised level of ambition to put down a new policy review of the Defence Review. And in that, the SecDef has a particular deliverable to develop a future national defence policy concept. And in essence, this is more or less the review of Chapter 9 and related matters in the current Defence Review, looking at a plausible, possible, and probable future policy concept. Because, you know, the Defence Review was 7 years ago. The strategic environment has changed. The nature of security has changed. The nature of warfare is changing. So we need to update the policy concept. Advance, please. If you go to the chief SANDF focus areas, you will see the term there, a military capstone concept, and linked to that is a command and control and defense structure that enhances command and control. And that is what is being done within the Defense Forces environment by the Chief of Staff and Chief Military Policy and Strategy and Planning. And that a military capstone concept is a strategizing tool that we use. The use of concepts, and a capstone overarching concept is looking at the concepts you can use to operationalize the policy. And linked to that is a strategic defense trajectory that looks at the required force that South Africa needs, the interim force we can afford, the risk and implications, and then the capability strategy, the priorities of the priorities be addressed in moving defense forward. Now, Chairperson, on the left-hand side, the future national defense policy concept, that document we have developed. We presented it in January to the Plenary Defence Staff Council, and we had the pleasure on Monday for the first time to introduce it to the ministry to start internal consultations then. And that document is on the table as we speak. The military capstone concept is also on the table. It has 6 chapters. They're busy finalizing chapter number 6 at the moment with a target date of 31st of March. So by the end of this financial year, there will be a solid discussion document on the table. And the defense trajectory I'll speak to in another slide, but also links to that document we call the, in the longer term, the journey to greatness. Advance slide, please. You'll also see there at the bottom that none of the above can be done without a credible and capable and contemporary defense industry. The defense industry that is both equipment orientated and technology orientated. So in the minister's directive, she requires Arms Corps to do an analysis of the public and private components of the defense industry and its ability to support SANDF audit operational output, and to posit a feasible industry and technology base within our current course resource constraints. And they are awaiting, we're having a follow-up work session, ministerial work session in the near future, and that will be presented and put on the table to start discussions on that. That document, that work is in process as we speak. Advance slide, please. But what we have been speaking, advance again, please, at a national engagement level. And Chair, I think all members have that understanding that we need a funding compact. As I said, defense planning is not multiple year, it's multiple decades. So we need to have an idea of what kind of funding on a policy level, what kind of funding ballpark estimation can we use for our planning? Because you can't develop a plan without being resource driven. And we need a policy decision that either as a percentage of government expenditure, in other words, that percentage of the fiscus that government can spend on defense, or as a percentage of GDP. We also need a funding model for military operations, and you saw that, you will see that in all our presentations, that we have ongoing operations, and then we're trying to fund them, etc. We need a funding model for military operations. We also have been engaging on a framework for capital programs, because we need to understand and etc. that the Strategic Defence Account or the Defence Strategic Account Act and the Special Defence Account is still a useful tool for multiple year defence planning. And we need also some funding and expenditure understanding on defence, particularly in the HR environment. So in a nutshell, Chair, that is the work we're doing at the moment. And in our engagement and consultation, a lot of the focus will be on the documents on the table, which will be those that are there, as well as getting a consensus on the issues in the red block. Advance, please. So I'm just going to give you an overview of what's in the first document, the first policy concept. If you can just open up the whole slide, please, up to number 7 on the right. So that policy concept document, which we had the pleasure of presenting to the ministry for the first time, just an introduction to the work being done this week. That document has 7 parts or 7 chapters. And we're on version 8.4 of that. And we look there at the geostrategic context from continental to global level. We look at the national security approach of South Africa, the national defense response, the defense mandate, the level of ambition and matters related to that, some guidance, the operationalization of that towards the defense strategic trajectory, and some guidelines for strategizing the force types and the levels of forces into the future. So this is really at the national strategic level to provide strategic direction to defense. After this comes then the defense capstone concept, which is the tool to strategize these matters and to bring them to the military strategic level of putting down military strategy. That's the capstone document, and the concepts they allow for strategization. As I said to you, that document is 6 chapters. They've finished 5 of them, and they're going to finish the 6th one by the end of March. Thank you. Advance, please. So what are we looking at for 24-25? This is following our engagement with the ministry and an engagement with the Commander-in-Chief. The first thing we need to do, advance one, please. And one more. Okay. So up until 31st of March, we are working hard to have these 2 documents, these important documents on the table, which will provide significant guidelines to defense and to start the consultation process as directed by the minister. But from the end of March or the 1st of April towards that target date of 31st of October, in that square there, I want to show you the breakdown of the work we're going to do. So yes, we have the force we would like, and yes, we need to develop the force we can afford, the interim force that can be sustainably funded, etc. So we need to strategize and provide a strategy and trajectory on an interim force at a level of funding that government can sustainably provide for defense as a means of growth. We need to express that strategy over multiple MTSF periods to show progressive growth. In other words, what happens? We need to, in each of that interim force, to look at the priorities amongst the priorities and put tranches of work down for funding, etc. And we must then bring that into a fiscal trajectory, financial engineering, and then be able to express that concretely in 3 MTSF plans, or 2 or whatever, depending how the work plans out. But each MTSF plan must sequence the priorities of the priorities, and it must demonstrate what's the return on investment or the value proposition you get by investing that into defense, how sustainment improves, how the equipment improves, how the operational performance output improves, etc. For each of those things. Linked to that on the left is the defense funding model. And the funding model, in our understanding of that, is that the funding model, let's put it this way, defense is primarily funded from the fiscus, from the the fiscus to the exchequer. However, what can we do to create savings or efficiencies or to generate additional income to assist the fiscus? And that's what the funding model is about. We did a lot of work in that up to 2017, and we're going to revitalize that work and relook at it. We also need to look at our defense foreign policy and our strategic engagement strategy. Who are our strategic partners we can work with on maintaining our submarines, our frigates, our aircraft, or have a cooperative acquisition with, or whatever it is, to assist in taking us on this growth strategy. And of course, as I said, we need a contemporary defense industry and technology strategy. And Armscor is working very hard to put that on the table. In fact, they have a very good concept at the moment on how to move the industry and our technology base forward. If you look at the right-hand side, we also need to analyze our HR, not just in terms of age and rank and etc., but for combat readiness interventions, to as well as look at our facilities. By facilities, we mean our built-up areas and our non-built-up areas, ranges and such like, whether they be DPW properties, lease properties, defense endowment properties, and look at what we really need and have a rationalization plan to have an affordable facility footprint, as well as, and Chair, you will know, as we presented over the years on this matter, defense really needs an integrated enterprise ICT system where procurement and finance and HR all work together and so on. In the modern era, you can't work without that. We have to come to an ICT enabler that assists us in good governance and management, as well as to look at cyber resilience and so on. So, Chair, in essence, the two top matters will be on the table by the end of March and will be in various states ready to start engagement, etc. From the 1st of April, well, we've actually already started. We've done a lot of research, etc. We're tackling this kind of detail, and it is very exciting work, and we look forward to sharing it with you. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. So, Chair, in a nutshell, this is work in progress. We're sharing and taking the committee into confidence with what we're doing. We are working very hard to get ourselves into a position where we in a much healthier space. And that's the tools we're doing it. And this is an integrated effort between Armscor, the Secretariat, and the SANDF. Thank you very much, Chair.
Chair, we are there. Chair, we are there. And we're
All right,
ready
no,
to get the questions.
yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. It is indeed a long theoretical work in progress. At this stage, I will invite all honorable members to interact with the presentation. I will then see by show of hands on the platform. I see the hand of Honorable Mare. You may go ahead, Honorable Mare.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Sendel. Much appreciated. I know that you have got a lot of experience. I think you were quite involved in the 2015 Defence Review as well. So, and we know that in that 2015 Defence Review, although you have mentioned a couple of chapters that might still have relevancy, we know that there's also a total overambitious review there. So, although tonight is just a progress, so we must take note basically of what has been reported, although very little detail has been shared with us. I hope, and you've mentioned that the minister has said that we must decide on what kind of defence force we want. I hope it will not be a case where you will just request us to rubber stamp, the final product and fight for money. So I hope that the Defence Committee and the Joint Standing Committee on Defence will be taken into confidence to talk about what kind of national security threats we see, what kind of national security requirements we're talking about. What do we mean by that over multiple MTFS periods? What is the kind of recommendations that we will have to take forward in changing or amending the act and laws that, for instance, regulate the old strategic defence account to kind of, re-energize that. Obviously, also the role that the private sector or the private defence industry in South Africa will play, because we know that currently most of them do not do a cent of business with our National Defence Force. And I do believe that in South Africa, we have got incredible, capable defence industry stakeholders with incredible technology, very little of which we are using. And we know that many of them are very, very keen to sit around the table and make contributions to rebuild our defence force. So obviously, when we get to the mandate and we get to all those requirements and strategic concepts for the future, that we will play a role. That it's not fait accompli that will be given, because I think that. So we like to do our homework, we like to do analysis, we like to ask questions. And I think over the last 5 years, I've said it many times, I think this Defence Committee, the Joint Standing Committee and the Portfolio Committee has done exceptional work. And I think we are in a much better position than previous defence committees where I've served in. So I think this committee and these members have proven themselves to be committed to the cause of the Defence Force and the security of our country. But we have got major challenges and shortcomings that if we don't start somewhere and you get our input and our buy-in, that you will probably find that you're going to have a repetition of what happened with the 2015 Defence Review. So thank you for the hard work, and obviously we are incredible, and I'm incredibly keen to see what kind of detail you will come up and to what extent that will meet with our perceptions, my perceptions, and my information because I do my own homework and I do my own research as well on what I think we need and where we should go to. So we would like to make a contribution, and I think that is a requirement. Thank you very much, Chair. Much appreciated.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much, Honorable Murray. I don't see any other hand on the platform. Can I check if there are still comrades who want to clarity seeking question? There is none. I think there's a general agreement that this is work in progress, but let me allow you SecDef to make comment on or talk to what Honorable Murray has raised.
Thank you, Chair. The Minister already in terms of consultation, but thank you for the support, Honorable Murray. In terms of consultation, already the Minister has indicated that we must include as many stakeholders as possible. And I am sure that those stakeholders include parliamentary committees, but I'm sure that that will be taken by the executive. As long as you are invited to come and give progress, we will give progress. as long as members understand that it will be the work in progress. And that's all I can say, Chair, and I can thank all members for the support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Acting Secretary. Yeah, we will interfere with the work that you are doing as and when you progress in terms of the work to be done around this particular matter. Even the next administration will be able to build up on what has been started insofar as this work is concerned. With that said, Acting Secretary, let me thank you and your team for including, as well as the Minister, for the work that you are doing to ensure that at least building on top of the 2015 defense review, there are some interventions that will be made to catalyze the process. With that said, I think we can leave it at that. And thank you, Minister, Acting Secretary, and the team. Nandipa, I think it's now safe to move to the next item. Nandipa, please guide what is the next item on the agenda.
Chair, we have 1 set of minutes to consider and adopt, Chair. Chairperson?
Am I audible?
Yes, now you're audible.
Am I still audible, members?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I can hear you clearly.
You
And
are,
also
Chair, we hear you.
Honorable Maria, I saw your mic was on, but I couldn't hear you.
Chairperson, you probably have got some problems on your side because I think most of us can hear you very clearly. But I think you probably cannot hear us very clearly. It's my assumption.
Something is not right with on my side. I can't hear any one of you.
Yeah. Yeah. We can hear you. We can hear you.
Are you able to
I
hear
don't know
me?
if you can see me. Yes. Yes.
We hear you,
Yes.
Chair.
Yes. Yes. We hear you. We hear you. Good.
Members, can we be excused?
Yes, Secretary. I think Honorable Mutle has got problems, but I think we can excuse you.
But I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. No. Thank you very much. I was just asking the team from the support team to guide us on the agenda.
Chairperson, the Secretary has just asked whether they can be recused from the meeting and that they can leave. So I don't think you heard that specific request from her.
No, I did not hear that. Hence, I'm saying I need to just ascertain the agenda if they are not needed, and then I will allow them to withdraw.
Yes,
Yeah,
Chair,
I've told them on your behalf they are free to leave.
Oh, okay. No. It's fine as long as the agenda items do not need their attention. Nandipa, can you
Thank you,
fly
Chair.
just to ascertain? Fly
yes,
that
Chair,
agenda
we
again.
only have 1 set of minutes to consider and adopt, Chair. I will flight the minutes now.
Oh, okay. No. SecDef and the team, Minister as well. You are permitted to withdraw from this meeting and have a good night.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, we have one set of minutes. The meeting was held on the 29th February. The agenda of that particular meeting dealt with received a briefing from military ombuds on its mid-year performance and expenditure. The attendance is as it appears there. And the attendance from official also as it appears there. The chair opened the meeting. We received apologies, considered minutes, briefing by, we then received a briefing by military vets. Then there were engagements. Minister also made the remarks, resolution and action of the committee. Then the closing remarks by the chair, and then the meeting was adjourned just 11 minutes after 7. Any inputs, corrections on the minutes? I don't see any hand, any mover. If we are happy with the content.
Muthapo, Chair, I move.
Honorable Muthapo moves.
Honorable Patrick seconds.
Honorable Bartlett seconds. The minutes are duly adopted. Thank you very much, honorable members. And that was the only set of minutes to be processed in this meeting. As a result, that brings us to the end of today's meeting. It's for me, on behalf of the chair, to thank you for your cooperation and participation. Have a lovely evening and good night to all of you. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Good night, Chair.